Okay, so Lauren is now going to take us away.
All righty. Well, thank you all for taking the time this evening to be here. I know that SEO is often not the first thing on your list when you're like, ooh, something fun and shiny to tackle on a Wednesday evening. So I really appreciate you for just owning that, like, hey, there's some value to this, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs shy away from it. A lot of folks who want to build a business don't want to look at SEO because it feels intimidating. It feels daunting. But I promise you, if you can run a business, you absolutely can do this. And I know that because of my own story. Now, I am going to delay telling you about the metrics that helped me sell my first company for six figures in 2021. And there's a lot of other more heart centered things that happened with that company as a result of organic marketing and organic search. So I'm going to save that for the end. I have a few case studies that I want to share with you so you can see what the reality is around what a little investment of time can actually ultimately reap you as the business owner, and also the impact it allows you to create, the greater ripple effect you can create in your community. So, what I would love for you all to do, I have a document that is going to go alongside this presentation. The very first comment in the chat is a link to a Google Doc. So it's going to create a copy. You just make a copy of that doc so that you don't have that source material. And then we are going to go ahead and dive in. I'm going to probably talk very quickly. Oh, folks aren't seeing it. All right, let me see. I'm going to go ahead and copy it. Oh, you know what?
Oh, yeah.
If you weren't here when I sent it out, you probably didn't have it. Sorry, I play on the internet a lot. You can tell I know how tech works. Um, so there's the Google Doc link. Um, if you have trouble accessing it, I will be sending a PDF version as well to Lisa. It will go out with the replay. So fear not. But as I mentioned, links, as I mentioned, resources, this is going to be a really helpful place for you to just go back and navigate. I also have it making a copy so you can take notes if you want. It is your own personal copy, it's not shared. So if there's something you want to like write in the margins, you are absolutely welcome to do so. No one but you will see it. So, with that, let's go ahead and dive in. So, the thing I love about Google, at the very core of everything that SEO can be in your business, is the simple premise that it can help you turn strangers on the internet into happy clients. That is really the end result, right? And here's how it works. The premise of this is that every business or organization solves a problem. And when people have a problem that they are ready to solve, they seek out information and solutions, and usually they do what we know as Googling it. Now, Google is sort of the ubiquitous term, right? He has a lot of clout. I call him Uncle Google, so I'll refer to him as a he. He has a lot of clout because we trust him to help ferry us through. But that underlined, italicized piece is really the important thing, because I used to work in test prep. I knew when I was sitting across from parents who were like, oh, I don't know that my kid actually has to take this test, I would probably not make the sale because they hadn't yet bought into the idea that testing can actually lead to thousands of dollars in scholarships, that it can actually confer a benefit to their kid. And so I knew that it was an uphill climb, as opposed to somebody who was like, hey, when's the next test? If I could be sitting there waiting for that person to say, hey, it's this date, and by the way, here is how you can get ready in a week or less, they would be like, oh, they were already committed to going. So, what the idea that somebody is ready to solve their problem is really important as a part of this journey. And when we talk about keyword research in a few minutes, it's going to really play in here. Okay. So, the third piece of this, the third bit of this premise is that if you can signal to Google, if you can clearly state This is who I am. This is what I do. These are the people I help. This is how I help them, and provide appropriate information, relevant information around those topics, then you are eligible to be served up in SEO speak what we call the SERPs, the search engine results pages. That's when you go into Google, you type in a query, and you get all of those results. They've gone to the ever scrolling method. So pages is kind of a misnomer these days. I doubt this lingo is going to go away. Essentially, how can you get high up in these search results so that you gain visibility to folks? Someone in that pre-work doc, the folks who like raise their hand and said, "Hey, I have a question." A lot of you were focused on getting to the number one spot. That's a great goal, but I will tell you from my vantage point, what I actually look for is the top 1 to 3 spots. That's like primo territory. You don't have to be number one, but being elevated and
Have a
above
lot more
the fold.
opportunity of making $1 billion if you already had 100.
I'm sorry?
I muted. I think she's
Okay.
just talking
Oh, okay.
in the background.
So yeah, if you're above the fold in the 1 to 3 slot, that gives you a lot of visibility. However, being even in the results at all is a huge win. And that's really what we're aiming for. We're aiming for gaining traction in many different places so that your overall presence can be elevated. And our hero here is Google. He is a matchmaker all day long. All he does is connect people with problems to people with solutions. And that's that it's a portal, right? It's a portal that you can walk through and say, "I'm here, I'm ready to serve." And that's where the heart-centered piece really comes in. The more empathy you can bring to this process, the more you will stand out, particularly in a domain that right now is being dominated by AI and conversations around AI. And people are churning out a huge volume of content, but they can't do it with heart. And that is where doing less, doing it better, and doing it with that human emphasis can really change the game. And I think Google is going to resonate more and more with human written content because it's going to stand out. Google tracks behavior metrics of people who come to our site. And we are all, right now, AI might evolve over time to a place where it can seem to have a heart. It's not there yet. And the more we show that, the more people will resonate with us, the more that the traffic that Google sends us will continue to engage with us. And Google's watching those metrics. It's watching how people interact with your site, behave when they are on your site, and behave once he sends them to you. And so the more we can sort of create this virtuous cycle that cares for others and cares for us, and the more it allows us to grow communities that are supportive, the more we will win at the technical SEO side. So try to keep that in the forefront of your mind as we go through this, because I'm going to introduce some relatively technical concepts. There's going to be some tools that we're going to use depending on your level of comfort with that. It might be okay for you. You might feel overwhelmed. Regardless, remember, at the end of the day, this is about getting humans in front of humans. And we got to go through the bots to do it in a digital space. But if we can keep both of those things in mind, both what the technical side needs, the signals that Google needs to make it really clear what we do, the more he's going to put us face to face, or screen to screen rather, with another human being we can help. And that is what we're here for. As entrepreneurs, that is what we want to do. And so this is just a vehicle to provide that connection. Now, at this point, I often get a question about why Google over social? Why do I spend more of my time there? And social's great. I love social to socialize, but as a business method for a solopreneur who doesn't have much bandwidth, I will put my eggs in the Google basket every single time, because his whole job is to match make quality information with people who need that information. And he's the algorithm for Google. Yes, there are changes that happen to it, But if you stay anchored in best practices, long-standing best practices, and remember that Google is always going to elevate quality content, that the rest of like the little things that go on in the algorithm don't matter so much to me. I'm looking at the arc of success over time, and it's always bending towards elevating quality content. And we know that social, on the other hand, that's not really the way it's going over there. There's a lot of boom and bust strategies. There's a lot of Instagram chasing TikTok. Like it's like a full-time job to manage at social and the strategies that work there. It's not to say you can't create connection, but if I can bring people in from organic search right at the time that they need me, bring them into an email list that I control so that when they raise their hand and say they want to talk to me, I can actually reach them. If I have to choose, I choose SEO over social. However, they do work really well in concert with one another. And so if you do love social and you do want to keep that up, or you already have a lovely community and you want to make it even more supportive, that's great. You can use SEO strategies to enhance what you're doing over on social and make it all sing together. The other thing about organic search, though, that I do have to say is my favorite, as somebody who's looking to save time, it can elevate your traffic for years on a single post. So I will share those metrics in a little bit when I give you my case study for how I got into this. But essentially, we're talking like 2 years for a single post to have serious traction in organic search, as opposed to, say, a 24 or 7 to 72-hour cycle for the algorithms on social. So if I can create one post really well and have it live for a really long time and help a lot of people, I'm going to choose that. And then I can use social as a way to amplify that or stretch that on the back end. But I put social at the front. So I do want to say, as we go in here, I'm going to ask some questions, and I'm going to have you guys do a little research on your own sites. But if you do have questions as I'm speaking, feel free to drop them in. If it's something I know we won't get to, I'll answer it at the end. If it's something relevant I'm about what I'm talking about and it adds to the conversation, I'll address it right at that time. So I'm totally comfortable sort of scanning the chat and doing that for you guys. So if you have questions, don't feel like you have to keep them in mind. You can go ahead and drop them in, but I will open to Q&A at the end for you all. All right, so step number 1 is to connect your website to Google Search Console and Bing Webmasters Tool. And you might be saying, wait, you haven't taught us what to do yet. And yes, having a quality strategy here is going to be important. But unlike a launch where you set up your strategy and then execute, it takes a long time to get into Google and Bing's ecosystems. And it takes a long time to climb the ranks. It can take a few months. But once you're in, you're golden for a good long while, provided you keep everything on your site healthy. So I keep thinking about these roadblocks as like boulders sitting in front of us. How do we bend those, knock those down and turn them into stepping stones as fast as we can? Just getting connected and knowing that you're being seen is the way you do it. So I am very curious to know what kind of traffic you guys are seeing on your website. So if you go to the link that I included in the doc, I'm going to go ahead and drop it in here. And Angel, I see your, okay, Angel, I see you. Alrighty, so this is the traffic checker. And you guys can be as brave or as sheepish as you like. I am super curious to know what kind of traffic you're getting on your websites right now. So feel free to take a look. We are going to talk about how to get into Google Search Console and Bing Webmasters in a minute, but it's always interesting to see where you're starting. And I think it's really also important if you are looking that up and seeing a big old goose egg, if that's what you're finding, that is totally normal. 96.5% of web pages on the internet get 0 traffic, according to a 2023 traffic study done by Ahrefs, the link that I just sent, according to that company. They did a big traffic study. It used to be 91%. That was 2021. And now it's 96.5. And I think what that shows is how many AI generated websites and web pages are out there. It is super easy to push a website onto the internet. It is very hard to, well, I shouldn't say it's very hard. It is much harder to maintain a website on the internet. So, Greg, hey, that number's going in the right direction. Hey, Lisa,
I
zip,
just
totally love it. You are in good company. Lisa,
There's mine.
6. Yeah.
Mhm.
So another sort of fascinating fact, I don't know if I put it in the doc, but so 96.5% of web pages get 0 traffic on the internet. Look at this. Yes, this makes sense, right? This is the majority of us. We're getting nothing from Uncle Google. But the
Ooh.
next 1.5% are getting 10 hits of traffic or less. And so there's really only 2% of websites out there that are garnering any sort of serious amount of traffic. So kind of interesting. Oh, nice, Lisa. I love that. Look at you.
Yay.
Great. So a lot of us need to raise our hands and just say, hey, Google, I exist. And that's what Google Search Console is there for. So I have included links. It changes every time. So I've just included a link to Google search to the actual Google Search Console. If you guess what, Google it, you can find it. Angel, I'm not sure I understand. You have number on Google Search Console. If you could clarify that, that would be awesome. Because I'd love to hear what you mean by that. If you think you've set it up and you might be confused because there are 2 other Google properties that are often when you're starting your website, people will tell you to set up. The first is Google Analytics, and the second is your Google Business Profile. Those are Google properties. Google Search Console is totally separate. Okay, you have clicks on your Google Search Console, but 0 on the other site. Got it. Okay. So, yeah. So, however many websites you have, you need to set up Google Search Console for those instances. So, going in to the tool and getting it set up, there are a number of different ways you can verify your domain. Essentially, you're proving your ownership. You went through a similar process if you've ever set up Google Analytics. But this requires you often to get into your DNS to go in and set up your domain settings. So what I will say, Bing Webmasters Tools also obviously pushes to Bing, but it also pushes to Yahoo. So what you want to do is set up Google Search Console fully. Then once that's set up, you set up Bing Webmasters Tool, because all the settings that you set in Google Search Console, once you've verified your domain, you can then push it straight into Bing Webmasters Tools in like a single click. So basically you integrate the 2. So don't set up Bing Webmasters Tools first. Do Google Search Console and then push it into the Bing Webmasters Tools. So this is a way for you to start, right? So we want to get in the ecosystem, even if we're doing something quote wrong, right, on our site, and we cover it and you go, oh, that's wrong. You can always go back and change it later. Right now, just raise your hand and say, crawl me as is. I really want to start getting out there. Because if you wait until your site is perfect, you're going to be waiting a long time, and it's just going to delay you getting out there into the ecosystem. So highly recommend just taking action on that as soon as we're off our call, right? Or right now, if you want, you can do it while we chat. So it can be a little technical, but there are a lot of different paths you can take. So take what's easiest to you. It's going to look different if you have WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, whatever you're on. The process is slightly different. So you can just search submitting to Google Search Console and then insert whatever your website tool of choice is to get out there. So once we are officially on the internet, then what? Then what do we do? Well, step 2 is to do a little keyword research and learn what the language is that people are using when they are searching for what you do. And this can be a really interesting process because sometimes what you realize is the language you use creates a separation between you and the person who actually needs you, as opposed to creating a bridge. So, the thing that I love to remind folks is that keyword research data is very useful. Just if you pulled a spreadsheet, looked at the data, you could probably write copy that would rank. However, if you do it with empathy, it's insightful. And when it's insightful, it creates connection. And connection is what creates conversion for a cold prospect that is sent to your website. By looking at the data around who's searching what terms in your domain, you are going to be able to find ways to maybe educate well and help people create transformation in their lives. So, for example, I have a course that is about naming your purpose. All right. So you name your purpose in life through it. It's called Big Why Life. And you create your personal mission statement. So I did some keyword research around the terms personal mission statement. And what I found was, to me, kind of appalling, right? People were searching for personal mission statement generators and things like BuzzFeed quizzes. And I was like, hold on. You don't know what you want to do with your life and you're going to trust BuzzFeed to tell you with a cute little quiz that like you pick pictures of Disney characters? Like, I'm all for those quizzes. They're very fun, but let's be real, that's not how you actually determine what you should be doing with your life. And so I wrote kind of a cheeky post that was, you are your best personal mission statement generator. Now, that's a very counter way to create content. I don't recommend it for every post that you create. But what you might find here when you are looking at the language that is out there is that people are looking for things in a very different way than that you as a expert in a domain or somebody with, you know, a serious background in it is looking for it. And so you can find ways to meet them where they are and say, you're looking for a personal mission statement generator. Have you considered that maybe the way you're going about this isn't right? Let me talk to you about that. Let's talk about why. And then let's talk about some steps you can take. And again, by meeting with empathy and going, I see what you're doing, and have you thought about it in a different pathway? You can lead people through. People are looking for information. And so if you can be the one dishing up information that is keyword optimized for what they searched for, then you can be the result that Google sends them. Now, the tool that I love to use, and I use it for my paid clients, so I have the paid version, but Ahrefs, this is the second time they're coming up. I love them. Their data is amazing. They have a huge database of keywords, and they will give you 10 searches for free. And so essentially what you do is you go to the link, the keyword generator, Ahrefs keyword generator, which is linked in the document. If you go there, you can type in any query and it will tell you some information about it. So if there's a question that you want to answer in your blog, for instance, I have one that's is SEO important for small business? And I typed that in to the keyword bar and it dished up how many people are searching that every single month and how hard it would be to rank for that term. And so when you do keyword research, you're really looking at three distinct components. You're looking at the actual words, which, by the way, are the precise language that many people are searching a month. And then also the keyword difficulty, which is how hard is it to rank for those terms. So when in doubt, you're looking for the lowest possible keyword difficulty and the highest possible volume. A lot of folks want to do it the other way around. They want to go, what's the most volume? And I'll just not worry about the keyword difficulty. you want to think about this as gaining momentum. If you're familiar with the Dave Ramsey debt snowball, right? Start small. Go with the thing that's easiest to tackle and get on the board with, and then spiral up. Gain momentum as you write more content. So starting really, really narrow and going for keyword difficulties under 10 is ideal. And then crafting content around those, even if it's for 50 or 100 people. Think about if 50 or 100 people were sitting in front of you. That would be amazing. If you reached 50 to 100 people a month, that would be awesome. So, understanding that it's a real beating heart on the other side of the screen humanizes those numbers. We talk about this in podcasting a lot too, right? If 5 people listen, that's 5 humans you have interacted with by creating this content. So, you want to keep that mindset. Remember, they're real humans, but also keep in mind that the easier you make it for Google to elevate you, the less competition that there is around any particular keyword, the better off for you. So, that is keyword research in a nutshell. So, think about what you do, who you serve, how you serve them, and the kinds of questions they ask when they are ready to buy. Another little story, I have a number of clients in the Disney space. I'm a total Disney nut. And my travel agent client, Phil from Ear to Their Travel, he had a website that had a lot of fan content because the Disney space, we will eat that trivia up all day long. And he has a podcast and he has a lot of social interactions. But one thing that Google was confused about when we started working together, they didn't know he was a travel agent. So he had a couple of like request pages, like quote request pages that were getting some traffic. I think they were getting like 300 hits of traffic aggregate a month, which is great. But what we did is we focused more on destinations. We focused more on questions around pricing, around which resorts to choose, around the things that people ask right before they buy. We did this whole campaign around cruises and what's included on a Disney cruise. What is the price of a Disney cruise? All these sort of granular questions. And we pointed them all to destination pages, core destination pages that were really robust. And we started getting on the board. And he ended up, I think it was like 1,500 requests a month after we had kind of shifted the focus of the site and pointed it to thinking about that buyer's journey and elevating those pages in Google. How you elevate them has to do with step number 3, which is how you create that consistent content on the site. But before we get there, I do want to make clear that search intent is really important when we're doing keyword research. So the kinds of content you create depends on the query being asked. And so there are technically 4 different kinds of keyword intent. But if somebody's just seeking out information, right? They're asking, what is organic marketing? That's an informational query, right? Somebody's not looking to be sold. They want information about organic marketing. So you want to meet that person with a free offering, some freebie that's related. So we want to welcome folks in on the informational side with an email offer. If they search organic marketing course, that's something that people know they're going to have to buy, right? So if they search organic marketing course, they probably have a credit card in hand. That's what's called a transactional query. And you can optimize your sales pages for those queries. I saw we had some consultants in the mix. You can look up queries around your business offering, not your branded speak, right? But the offerings that you have, that like, what is the high level term? Like, what would people call it? So for me, organic SEO consultant, right? I can optimize my consulting page to meet that query. And I was looking at it earlier. I think it's like a competition of 8 and I want to say like 300 searches a month. So I can have that sales page ready to go and actually connect them to a sales page directly. Angel's asking about TubeBuddy for keyword research for YouTube. So I am not trying to build YouTube channels, right? I'm not using YouTube as a social uh, platform. I'm using it as a hosting service, and I embed them. I want my post to rank. So I do everything through like what the Google query is. I have not used TubeBuddy myself. I know a lot of people love it. But I think Ahrefs, if I remember correctly, the keyword generator, I would do just a little check to see like comparatively where they land. But yeah, that brings me to another point, which is if you've ever done keyword research, then you likely know that all the data sets are different. So if you use SEMrush or Moz and then try and compare it to Ahrefs, it's not apples to apples. So similarly, TubeBuddy, you might find that it's not that either one is wrong. It's that they're pulling from data sets differently and their internal algorithms on the search tool is different. So it's slicing and dicing it slightly differently. So I think it would be interesting to do apples to apples on Ahrefs and TubeBuddy and just see which one you like more. The reason I like Ahrefs, this is going to be a real weird way to say this, but I find it more hopeful. um, so I find that their granularity around keyword difficulty is less prohibitive. If you go into SEM or Moz, it feels like you're never going to rank for anything because everything is so difficult. But I don't know what they do, like if they distribute it so differently, distribute the data differently. I found it effective. Like I rank for terms that I would expect to rank for, but they are terms that looked less optimistic on other tools. So if you see that there's a huge disparity between TubeBuddy and Ahrefs, and TubeBuddy seems harder, then maybe you sort of can like cross pollinate, like pull stuff from TubeBuddy and then put it into Ahrefs to see if there's like more granularity to see opportunities bubble up, if that makes sense. But yeah, I would be very curious to know. But again, I'm not building YouTube channels, so that's not one I've played with very much. All righty. And then step 3 is, as I said, to start creating consistent website content. You want to think about sales pages and blogs separately. All right. So think about them slightly differently, right? We're pushing sales pages to a buy action, and we're pushing our informational content to stay engaged with me. With an email opt-in, usually with a quality lead magnet, or freemium or what have you. Yes, Angel, the cost is significantly less than Ahrefs. So yeah, if you want to have like, I have clients who are paying me a pretty penny to do it for them, so it's worth it to me to buy Ahrefs. You could generate keyword spreadsheets one by one, pretty manual process. And if you already have a lot of folks in TubeBuddy and you are able to save their profiles and chart their progress and whatnot, then $30 a month, not bad. But I would benchmark it just to see how it's hanging compared to Ahrefs, because Ahrefs has kind of become the gold standard, I would say. That's the reason they can charge as much as they do. Alrighty, so crafting quality website that converts on your website, or quality content that converts, really in-depth topic. Like there's whole courses on that. I did a presentation about how to craft SEO copy that converts. It's a whole other hour, and we don't have time to go that deep into it. But the highlight reel, the thing that I see a lot of folks getting wrong or ignoring with SEO is that they don't begin with the end in mind, to Stephen Coveyett. They don't start with a specific keyword that they are aiming to target, And when you know that keyword and you see the human behind the query, you can, again, deliver with more empathy. You can start by saying, I see the pain point behind this. Let me tell you there is hope, and let me help you make that progress with genuinely helpful information that is a deeper dive into the topic at hand. You want to make sure that the keyword you're targeting is reflected in the URL. So you can see I have the URL of SEO Principles, how to write SEO copy that converts. That is a beautiful URL. It's nested via WordPress categories. That's like a plus up. You don't have to do that. But the SEO Principles is like a more narrow band that I leverage categories to organize my site by. And then that how to write SEO copy that converts. It hits the target of write SEO copy, right? That is what I'm going for. And you also want to make sure that the keyword is reflected in the title of your post, right? So you want to have it matchy matchy. I know sometimes we get a little like creative and we're like, ooh, it's like stifling my creativity. It's hindering me. It's a URL. That's not for the human. That's for the bot. And even the title, the meta title that you can put into an SEO plugin on WordPress, or that you can shift what shows up in search, that could be your compelling title that's a little more marketing, right? That can be a little more like appealing to the human. But the title on the post doesn't have to be exactly the same. And it should be speaking to the bots, because if a post is posted on your website and nobody reads it, does it exist? You know, like it's the tree falling in the forest. We want to make sure that first and foremost here, it has the ability to rank, because the great content that's in there never reaches the humans who need it if the bots don't see it. The next thing I will say is that you also want to make sure that your site is clearly organized. And one of the ways you can do that is by indicating to Google what related content lives on your site. So, as I mentioned, I have a course about purpose. I have a lot of content about purpose, and I started there. I have a post about books that help you name your purpose. I have a post about what to do when you don't know what to do. I have posts about fundamental values. I have a free opt-in that's a list of 111 core values to live by. I have a whole system working there in that vertical. And then I have organic marketing that lives side by side with it. But Google knows they're not related because I don't interlink the purpose stuff with the organic marketing stuff. Google's almost, not entirely, but almost seeing it as two separate sites, because I'm really good at creating the web on my website. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. When you are building out your website, you really need to be going forward and backward and finding opportunities to link to other content on your site and push people through to more content. The more you do that, the more often people will stay engaged with your information. You can point to sales pages where appropriate. You can point to other posts. This allows you to not write a book in a post, but to write a chapter. And then you can write the next chapter. And then you can link from the next chapter back to this one, dive in here and push forward as well. And I don't just mean the like related posts thing at the bottom. You actually want to be leveraging what are called anchor links, where the keywords you're trying to rank for are highlighted and linked. So you can see I have SEO services for small businesses linked there. If you click that, it goes to that post. Whenever I put, or that page rather, whenever I put that on my site, Google is mapping and going, oh, that's the keyword she wants to rank for. I can go and make sure that I like index that appropriately. And it is already starting to climb in search. And more of the informational stuff, like why is SEO important for small businesses, you can put that into posts as well. And Google's going to then understand that all of these pages are interconnected. All right, so make sure you're helping him index your site by showing what's related and how. This is also, I noticed some of you have podcasts. This is one way you can be really generous with your guests and give quality backlinks, is to go in and highlight instead of just saying follow Lauren here, LaurenGaggioli.com, you could say, like Lisa mentioned in my intro, Lauren has an virtual drop-in mastermind for entrepreneurs. Instead of linking that somewhere else, she could highlight that and then point it to the mastermind page. And then that keyword is coming from somebody else's website, which is really powerful, and pushing through to their site and saying, hey, Google, I'm someone totally not affiliated with this person, but I had them as a guest on my show and I want to give them some love, give them some link juice. And it's beautiful because if you put my name in the URL and then you have that, you can actually be the person who ranks for my name, right? My husband had somebody at work trying to figure out what I did, and he went and he searched and he's like, she's on like every podcast. I don't understand. And it's because people had put my name in the URL. I was ranking in search. He was just searching my name. He could find my website too, but all these other properties were populating. And so it's a way that you get a little something for it and that guest gets a little something for it too. So again, kind of creating that cycle. And then at the end, you need to remember to ask for folks to join you at the bottom of every post. Don't do this on sales pages. The join me in sales pages is a buy now button. But so many people, we design our website. We're like, look at my beautiful homepage. Look at my amazing services pages. My about page is optimized to the hilts. I have a contact page. Oh yeah, I have a blog somewhere. Right? And then we get into those granular pages and you get to the bottom of the post and there's no ask. There's no offer. There's nothing for that person. So if you start getting cold traffic, they're going to come up through the roots. They're going to come up through the more granular pieces of information on your site. If you don't give them a place to land, you're going to be in trouble. They're going to walk away. They're not going to continue to engage with you. And remember, Google's watching behavior metrics. So if you provide a in alignment offer, so my purpose side, it's that values list, right? Core values are the beating heart of purpose. That's where it all starts. And that's how you generate your mission statement, your personal mission statement, your big why. So it's a perfect starting place. At the end of every post about purpose, it is totally natural for me to say, hey, you might want to back up and talk about your core values first, because that's going to inform the rest of the journey. On the SEO side, on the organic marketing side, I have a DIY website audit, kind of similar to what we did at the top here, right? Hey, you're here, you want to grow your site's traffic. Let's first talk about where you're starting. And let's talk about some of the easy, low-hanging fruit ways for you to improve that by looking at a few of these technical markers that you likely never looked at before. That is so easy for me to pivot any piece of content around SEO into. So a lot of people are like, I have to create 338 opt-ins. Just make one. Make one that relates to all of the content you create, or at least a large portion of the content you create, and make it the next right step. What's your next right step if you're interested in SEO? It's figuring out where you are and is the foundation of your site sound. If those two things are good, then you're ready to move into phase 2, which is creating the content and learning how to do that well. But if your site is fundamentally broken, you want to do a little cleanup and housekeeping, and some of those fixes are super easy. Let me walk you through some resources for that. So it's a really simple way to generate more connection and to pivot every piece. You're creating enough content as is, right? Like we're all one person. We are all only one person. Just make it as simple as possible so that you can start making forward progress. And Google does want to see you update your website. It wants to see that there's a human there who's paying attention. You want bonus points here? Once you have people opt in, send them to a thank you page. Don't just pop up a little pop-up. Send them to a thank you page, because then they hit a second page on your website in a single visit. And then email them. Make that thank you page say, hey, you have an email from me, a welcome email. Go check it out and let me know what you find there. Like if you have a question or something, I want to hear from you. In that email, link back to your website, and you can have a person hit your site 3 times from an organic search from Google. And then this starts a cycle of them staying connected to you. Okay. So I see, Angel, I love you. Thank you. So I'm seeing overwhelmed. Okay. Messages. Okay. Okay. Yes. Lydia, you have a canonical tag issue. Okay. So I'm going to need more information to help you troubleshoot that. But essentially, so let me explain what a canonical tag is. We'll back into this. We'll start with the information, and you might be able to solve it yourself. But if you need more information, we can always, like, you can send me an email. We can connect. Sorry, this is this is tricky. So Google only wants to index a single piece of content once. Okay, so what I mean by that, I wrote a guest post for my friend Angela Wills about is becoming a mompreneur right for you. We posted it on her website. Okay, so that is the original. But I would love to have it live on my site, not so Google sends me anybody through it, because it only should be driving traffic through hers. I want to raise my hand and say, hey, this isn't duplicate content. I'm the author. I'm not ripping somebody off. I wrote a guest post, so I also want it to live on my site because it's a piece I wrote. And so what you do in your Lydia, are you on WordPress? That's my next question for you. Because what you do for me in WordPress in your SEO plugin, you can state the canonical. So when I published 2 weeks later, I published the post that I wrote for Angela on my site. I put that her URL was the canonical. I pointed that to her original site so Google wouldn't ding me for ripping her off, and would properly index that page instead of mine for the keywords we had worked on.
Excuse me.
Is this
It's
coming together?
yes. It's. Can you hear me? You can hear
Yeah.
me, can't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually a Shopify website, and I
Okay.
think what I've done is because I was doing lots of descriptions, like for pieces of clothing descriptions. I was doing lots, like 40
Yes.
or something. So I
Yes.
must have doubled up on keywords or something.
I think you did. There's a whole, this is not my area of expertise, product shops, but that is a huge problem with product shops, that you have to have disparate URLs for different products. And so even something like if you have a single page for a shirt and then each color has to have its own URL. So there's like if you look up Shopify SEO and put that issue in, you're going to find solutions. Google can help you.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I've gotten, that's just one I happened to find right then.
Yeah.
But I've had lots with all different sort of issues. I'm like, it's too much. But so I'm sort of focusing more on my coaching website right now. I'm sort of like, I almost want to pull down all the descriptions and just start all over again. But I don't know if Google will penalize me. Will they still relate it to the actual the actual website if I do that? Am I sort of tagged as bad or something now, or can I fix it?
No, I would say slow and steady wins the race. Don't blow it up.
Yeah.
Just figure out the way to differentiate it and to make it different.
Yeah.
Because the other thing you don't want to do is just like wipe it all out and then have to build it back. That's going to, I think, take more time as opposed to adjusting it.
Yeah. For me, sometimes it feels easier, like, just because I don't understand this sort of thing. So you've helped me a lot. So does each page, it's its own URL? Is that sort of how it works? See, I didn't really know that. So that's explained a lot. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. Oh, I'm so glad to hear it.
Thank you so much. Sorry to throw that at you, but it's yeah, that's great.
Happy to
It's been a block.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, there's always going to be stuff like Google's going to say, oh, you're not allowed to index that. Like, or we've crawled that, and no, we're not going to elevate that yet. And it's just a waiting game. It's just saying, okay, I see you and I'm in the ecosystem. You understand that that URL exists and maybe it has errors. I'm very much a fan of the Pareto principle for SEO, which is the 80-20 rule. Like, let's do the 20% that moves the big rocks. Like, we can move ourselves into the ecosystem by virtue of the fact that we did more than the other guy, right? More than AI did.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can definitely do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so Lisa has a question. If you have a blog post and you want to add it to both of your websites, how do you do it so Google likes it? All right, so Lisa, you pick. You pick which one that blog post originated on. And so what I recommend you do, and this is a sort of dovetailing with closing the loop, the step 4 in the document. What I highly recommend you do is that once your post is published, wherever you want it to live, wherever you want Google to drive traffic to it. So because you have craniosacral and real life moms, they're likely very different. But if you say had a mindset thing that you wanted to talk about over and it was more pertinent to craniosacral, and then you also wanted that content to live over on real life moms, you would post it on your craniosacral site. You would submit that URL to Google and give it 2 weeks. And then you can publish that exact same post on your real life mom site, but in your SEO tool, list the canonical URL as the craniosacral site. And then once it's up on your site, you just save it. Don't submit it to Google search. It's fine. Just leave it. Because ultimately, that's just for people who come to that site through other means. They're not coming there through organic search. And likewise, you had a post about being a mompreneur that probably should live at Real Life Moms. You could also post it over at Craniosacral, but you just reverse the process. So the other thing I like to do is do a little blurb at the top that's like, this was originally a guest post at, and then link to the original URL. Or because they're your own domains, I would do that. But yeah, you can sort of direct Google, tell Google. This is true also of like Medium posts or LinkedIn. You know, you can go in and post content there first and then republish on your site or the other way around. You just need to state whether or not it's original content. And that doesn't mean original to you. It means where was it originally published? It's an indexing question. Google needs to know which thing to elevate because in confusion, he elevates nothing. So you've got to decide and have a little strategy backing you. So the closing the loop on your marketing efforts, I often say SEO is self-care for your business. It's self-care for you. And the steps that I share there are what I recommend once you've published a post. It's a way for you to ensure that nothing is lost. I think the real critical piece here is steps 4 and 5. Once you've published a post on your website, you can wait a few days, then send it to your email list and direct them back to your website. Say, hey, I just wrote this post about this. If you've been curious, come and check it out. And it brings people back to your site. Google's watching for return visits. So you have a way to point folks back to your website. At the same time, add to your nurture sequence, add to your Flashback Friday or whatever it is, an ongoing nurture sequence that you are generating out of the content you've created, also directing people back to your website. So you're building out the kind of ongoing evergreen loop at the same time that you're bringing people who are already there in on that sequence. Does that make sense? The other thing I will say is if you haven't done the new authentication measures for your email, no more at gmail.com. They're cracking down on that. You need to take a look at how you are bulk sending and make sure that your email authentication is up to speed because they're not going to be sending stuff. Pinterest is a search engine, so sharing in Pinterest is super helpful. Curating a few boards there going to really up your visibility, get you backlinks, which is helpful. And then if you are in the social ecosystems, tip your post sideways, chunk up the content in a reasonable fashion, and start dishing it out in social over time. So if you create this really robust post and you also still want to feed social, by all means do so. Just leverage the original post and the content you created to generate little more blurb-like pieces of copy and images, and away you go. I have some tips here for local businesses, and I think it's pretty straightforward. But I did see we had some local folks. So just make sure you have your Google business profile. Make sure you have a call to action so you can collect reviews via Google. Really optimize that because it's going to really help. And then the other thing you can do is reflect your service area on your website. So making sure you have local schema markup. I like embedding a Google business profile on an about page, like your map, or you can do it in the footer. Just making sure you're again kind of closing the loops there and ensuring that Google knows who you are because you are in their system a few ways. And so the more you can create that connection, the more Google's going to go, oh, when they search for craniosacral therapy near me, then I can pop up in the Google Maps search. But like I said, I believe SEO is self-care for your business. This absolutely comes from my own experience. I was getting 16,000 organic users to my site each and every month from Google. That started the summer before I had my baby in October and continued for 2 full years plus. So 16,000 prospects via organic search for free, no ad spend, coming to me because I was answering the questions they were asking about the ACT and SAT. And because of that, so many families earned what they paid me to teach their kid and more back in scholarships because I helped them close the loop on understanding this is not an end in itself. This is a means to an end. The ACT and SAT unlocks doors. I had numerous kids get 6 figures of scholarships over 4 years because they understood the system, and it was because Google sent them to me. So it can really be life-changing. Obviously, being home with my baby, working the 4-hour work week life was awesome, and not worrying about where I would find the next client out there in the wilds of the internet. That is just gold in business, not having to worry about your prospects and worrying about how they're finding you and then being able to bless them twice. Like, that is amazing and what I love to do. And I had a course, but this does also work for e-commerce. So I have a client, Scott, who he is just killing it. He's a Disney guy. He does grocery delivery at Disney World, and he also ships these awesome, cute little Disney surprise boxes. So, like, if you're surprising somebody with a Disney cruise or a trip to Disney World, he ships it to you. You open it, and it's, yay, you're going to Disney World. So he's sort of splitting the streams. He has both an in Orlando based business, but then also a shipping business. And in the first 6 weeks of 2024, I keep updating this stat and it just tickles me every time. He's received 123% increase in traffic over last year and a 59% increase in his revenue. And I always say this is about reach and revenue. It's about impact and income, because if you think about this search methodology, if you think about that flow of, is this an informational query or a transactional query, suddenly you make it so much easier for people to say yes to you. And even if that yes is payment in an email address now, it allows you to stay connected and potentially have them become a client later. So when you're thinking about that flow, it's really important because it, again, is putting the other person front and center. And you're saying, let me take care of you in the way you asked Google for someone to take care of you. And ultimately, you reap rewards too. I also want to share the story of my beautiful friend, Josephine Loren. She is an incest survivor and a copywriter, and we've been friends since high school. And she said, I wanted to reflect to you the efficacy of your SEO training. Incest Aware, which is her organization that provides resources to folks, is ranking top 5 for the most appropriate related keywords. And Messy Play Kits, which is a sensory bin company that she does keyword research for and writing for, has nearly quadrupled its visitors to the website. The last blog post we wrote received 1,700 clicks in its second month. So you can see it's not just one thing, right? It's a lot of things. It's how they link together. And I think that's the piece that's often missed with SEO, right? A lot of people are like, I got you traffic, boom, we're done. That was the whole thing, right? We're just going to get you traffic. That's what I do. It's not just about traffic, right? If you get traffic, but you don't stay connected to the person who said they wanted to hear from you, right? That's a problem. And it is about really building our communities online in the same way we would in person and bringing that same heart-centered focus to our marketing. And people know the difference. They know the difference when you are standing in front of them saying, yes, I leveraged a strategy to find you. Now, how can I see you as an individual and help you? That is a totally different thing than some, dude bro marketer in a hoodie going, got you the numbers. You're welcome. Deuces. So we want to make sure that we're always coming at it through this lens. And I genuinely believe that when purpose-driven, heart-centered entrepreneurs are doing their thing, our world is a better place. I love entrepreneurs because we are the most magical creatures out there. And I want to help more people find this reach because I know the ease and abundance it's brought me. I'm so grateful for it. I have my own business and I homeschool my kids. And I love that. Like, how cool. Like, there's no other time in history where it could be done with the same amount of ease that we can do it these days. But it does take a little understanding of the strategy. And I hope that I've laid that out here for you clearly so that you can take some of these pieces and run with it right away, that you have the tools and resources that you need to leverage this immediately. However, if you want to go further, I do have a course that's going live on March 1st. You have a 15% discount off the early bird up through March 1st. Friday, March 1st is when it's all going live and we will be off to the races. So if you're interested in learning about more, the discount code is there, as Lee says, and the links are all there. I also have a free DIY website audit. So if you want to take that benchmarking of like, oh, I'm getting 0 in traffic, that's lovely. Now what? There may be some other technical things that are going on your site. And so this is a free 3-part series that I walk you through exactly how to benchmark the site more robustly than just looking at traffic. We look at a few different metrics. I explain why they matter. And then we walk through some of the technical fixes. So there's a lot of resources for you. And I have to ask at the end, of course, if you found this helpful, if you would take a moment to leave a Google review or a LinkedIn review, I would be so grateful. All the links to do that are at the bottom.